Well, I think it was obviously it was a challenging road trip. We got what we deserved. We played two really good teams on the road, and the record doesn't just reflect, I think, what everybody in our league knows, New Mexico State's talent level. And they went out and validated our win by beating Seattle, and I think they were up pretty handily at home on Saturday against Seattle, and everybody knows how talented New Mexico State's always been, and then we played Grand Canyon. It was a heck of a game for quite a while, and we just couldn't get over the hump playing from behind. We let them get off to a good start. They had traditionally a phenomenal crowd. It's a great atmosphere, a lot of fun to play in, compete in, and it was just a challenge playing, not just against their crowd, but I think everybody gets into it, from their team, our team, the referees. Everybody kind of gets into it, and once that momentum got going, it was hard to. We battled back, went ahead a little bit in the second half, and just couldn't overcome all of it.
Okay. Coach, you can really go all the way back to like the Furman game, but that game and the Sam game, the two games this week. You guys have had some of these games where you're down the stretch, you're right there, and just not closing the deal. What do you guys have to change up in those late game situations?
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily late game, as every championship team learns how to close out games, and you never know when the biggest possessions are. Like, you can look at the Grand Canyon game. That was a little bit earlier, I thought, with about 5 or 6 minutes left, where we didn't capitalize. We had the game under control. We got to go get a basket or two, put some heat on them. Because I kept telling our guys, hey, if we'll just get ahead of them. They've been in this. Last time they had a game like this, they lost. And New Mexico State, we couldn't get ahead of them. We get a charge, and we go. I fully believe I made a bad play call. I forced Posey to charge. And then we don't get a defensive rebound, so they stay ahead of us, and which is a little bit later in the game with a couple of minutes left. And games, championship teams come down to 1 or 2 possessions in a year, and thankfully we've got a month left to figure it out. We've gone through it, and we've talked about it as a staff. We've talked about it with players, and what can you do to minimize that kind of stuff. Rati Ware tweaked his knee, didn't play in the last few minutes in the game Saturday, and you'd like to have a veteran on the court that's won so many of those games. But it's not 1 or 2 things. I mean, it's a culmination, I think, of a lot. But excuse me, both those games, and every one of those games we've lost, in my opinion, have one common thing, and that's defending the three-point line. Gave up 11 Saturday, gave up 8 on Wednesday, and when we give up more than 6, we really struggle for victory.
Final back half of the schedule, I think we could finally say that now. You have more home games than you have road trips left. How big is this last swing going to be for you guys going into Las Vegas?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously we're going to Valley this week, and they come off a great win for Coach Fig and his staff. They went to Tarleton and won, and nobody'd won at Tarleton at this point. It's a huge confidence builder for them, and we're not thinking about the Vaqueros at this point. I mean, we're thinking about ourselves. Because we've been, Hunter, you've been with us. The focus is usually on us to begin with, but congratulations to them. And we got a lot of help, honestly, in the league standings this weekend as we stumbled our feet. But, like what you were saying, Bucket, I mean, there are some things we have to clean up. I mean, there's 2 things I think we have to do, really 3, but we got to take care of the ball better, which we did Saturday night in a really hostile environment, and we got to defend the three-point line. And if we'll do those 2 things, and then defensively, if we'll just guard the ball a little bit better out front, which kind of leads to 3-point shots, I think we're in pretty good shape. I like our chances. I mean, it's just maybe easier said than done, but and we need a little bit become a little bit more aggressive defensively.
Coach, speaking of you guys kind of working on you. You just came off you guys left like on Tuesday last week and didn't get back till yesterday, and obviously not the road trip you guys hoped for. Now that you're back, you guys just practiced this morning. Like, what's the feel in the locker room? Like I know we talk about X's and O's and all that stuff, but just like the mindset of your guys, like coming back today?
Well, I think today was kind of a blah day, honestly. I think talking to some of the younger guys on our coaching staff, the guys are kind of excited to get back to it. It's probably harder for us older guys who invest so much into it to be back, not knowing you don't get to play till, it's like a football coach, Saturday to Saturday. I mean, that's hard to, because you're used to just getting back going, looking at an opponent, getting excited about playing. And the guys that kind of put it behind them from Saturday's tough defeat, you lose by 3 at Grand Canyon, and it's tough. I mean, you had great expectations going into this week, winning 2 more games on the road, and we're used to winning. I mean, just a few weeks ago, we had the nation's longest road winning streak at 9, and we've lost a few on the road now, and which we're used to winning on the road. A couple of years ago, we had won the most road games in the country. So that's it's not what we're doing; it's how we're doing it right now. That's not perfect, and. I asked the guys this morning, all right, who else played in the NCAA tournament? All right, who else won conference championship? As the hands kind of get smaller and smaller, like that's who we're playing for right now. It's not for you, it's for these other guys because they haven't done it before. They don't think about yourself. Think about everybody who hasn't necessarily done those things because I think winning, begets kind of selfishness or of a me attitude or whatever. And we got a lot of guys that have won conference championships and won rings and whatnot. And the hard part is doing it again. So as you stumble once or twice, you can be, I won it last year. Oh, I did this, and the hard part is, man, revving it up again, right? And like, hey, man, we got to do this again as it gets tough. It gets challenging because the league's so good. And somebody that hadn't ever done it before, haven't ever won a league championship, is like hungry. And you got to get that hunger back in our guys to do it for somebody else besides yourself.
How is it going to be a dogfight league-wise? It's going to be a dogfight for SFAs particularly. But the WAC as a whole, it seems like almost anybody could walk away with the regular season championship how it is right now. Talk about that versatility in the league.
Well, I think the schedule has a lot to do with it because it's an unbalanced schedule. So I think that opens it up to a lot of doors because, some teams aren't playing the best teams, right? And then, we get stuck playing 2-3 game road trips. Whatever reason, we got no favors. Nobody in the league has 2-3 game road trips like we have and not have a 3-game homestand on top of that. So we got no favors as far as that goes. I mean, if you just look at schedules alone, you're not picking SFA to win the league. Just on schedule alone. Like the chances of them win the league, probably not great. Just by putting the schedule out there alone, and so, that's so you look at who's got, like, Hunter, you made the point, we got 4 at home, 3 on the road left, like just schedule wise, the schedule is turned in our favor. As we move towards the end. Now we're 2 games back. Now we got to rely on somebody to help us get to back where we'd like to be. And because we can talk about that resume seeding, whatever we want to, which is, you don't want to hear my feelings on that because that to me has that's not basketball. That's not basketball. That's not a regular season tournament, whatever. That has zero to do to me as far as basketball. And I'll address that when the season's over with. But we're in the league, and they made that decision, and we'll go from there.
Jack's looking to rally back in the Valley on Saturday. Be sure to follow along on social media for anything following SFA basketball. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Hunter. Axe 'em.